Hi everyone, Carter Krishnaiyer here from the Pavilion. It's been a great T20 World Cup. Let's dive into the semifinal matchups and talk about some of the outstanding performers in this tournament so far. Our first semifinal is Wednesday in Ahmedabad, which has been like a home ground for South Africa in this tournament, and the fans there love them. This is a clash between two sides that have played very well in this World Cup and two of the more complete teams in this tournament. Now, South Africa had a bit of a hiccup against Afghanistan earlier in the tournament, but they obviously have been fantastic otherwise, including that decisive victory over India. New Zealand have had wobbles. Opening partnership of Tim Seifert, Finn Allen have been fantastic, but there have been struggles outside of that. And obviously, the way they lost to England in the final match of the Super 8s, leaving their qualification in doubt, needing Sri Lanka to really push Pakistan the way they did, created a situation where they didn't need to be in. They had firm control of that match against England. England very resourceful. They know how to get through these sorts of matches. New Zealand did not manage the situation very well. And I thought, despite some of the really outstanding bowling we saw at times from New Zealand, let them down at the most critical of times, right? I mean, in fact, when I go back to my my notes from that match, Henry's really poor last over. Phillips had a poor. Henry had no plan for that last over, knowing England that by that time was within sight of the target. Phillips bowled well until the final over he bowled, where that opened the door for England, and he didn't lose deliveries, and the field was not, I think, set up properly in that period. Ravinda had some really good overs in the middle, but look, I mean, they made it this far. So this is this is clearly some sort of get out of jail. I keep using that expression, but kind of a get out of jail card they got when Pakistan posted a huge number against Sri Lanka, and then their bowling let them down. And Pakistan still won the match, but the net run rate didn't pass New Zealand's. And it very well could have, the way Pakistan was going in their innings. So, again, I think they're very fortunate to be here in spite of being very good. South Africa has been playing with a swagger. Markham has been phenomenal as a captain and as a leader and as a part of an opening partnership. David Miller, my saying this tournament is David Miller does David Miller things. They look really tough to get by. And then you think about the bowlers from South Africa. You think about how good they've been at times in this tournament. It is difficult for it's difficult to kind of hit them consistently. So I think Lungi and Rabada are going to be key in this. Maharaj also will be key. And I noticed this when these two teams matched up in the group stage. You had Markham really kind of strategically in his batting using a closed face for cover drives, and that made a huge difference. And there were some early balls from Henry that Markham then had figured out and began to create a flow of runs that was picked up by the rest of the order, and they weren't really challenged. Now this time, could New Zealand has that memory, and hopefully if the muscle memory is there for them, they're going to be able to kind of legislate against that. But we will see. I like South Africa. I think this is pretty straightforward. Can South Africa shed the tag of them being not the also-rans, it's a bad term, the nearly men? I think this might be the tournament, the way they're going. But New Zealand can be clinical at times. And again, Seifert, Allen, that opening partnership is going to be important for South Africa to get get wickets early. That will be it. If South Africa can retire one of those two very early, and I think it's going to be Lungi and Rabada bowling those early power play overs, I think it's pretty straightforward for South Africa. Before we get to the England-India semifinal, which is very, very fascinating, let's talk about some of the leading figures that are not necessarily in the semifinals from this tournament. So the best bowler in the tournament in terms of taking wickets so far is South African-born Skadley Van Schalkwyk of the United States, who took 13 wickets in 4 matches, including 3 in a single over against India at the Vakende. Blessing Mzarambani for Zimbabwe has been brilliant. 13 wickets in 6 matches. He really paced Zimbabwe in this tournament. Lungi, we've talked about already in this preview. He's still in this tournament, 12 wickets in 6 matches. He's going to take a few more. He will end as the top wicket taker. But if you think about Van Schalkwyk's 13 wickets in 4 matches, that's pretty remarkable. Really remarkable. I think Harmeet Singh from the United States had 8 or 9 wickets in just 4 matches. So also great record for him. Varun, 12 wickets in 7 matches, struggled a little bit with the early overs he was given against the West Indies. May have been the wrong call to give him those overs against the Windies, but he's still up there in the frame for the tournament. And then Corbin Bosch, who is going to play a role again for South Africa in this semifinal and a final if they advance, 11 wickets in 6 matches. In terms of the leading run scorers in this tournament, Farhan, who I've just loved watching in this tournament, 383 runs for Pakistan. Brian Bennett, who we've talked a lot about from Zimbabwe, really, when Zimbabwe needed it the most, including in matches against the likes of India, the likes of Australia, really produced. And it's a breakout tournament for him. And, Farhan is the first player to hit 2 centuries. I should have mentioned that in a single T20 World Cup edition. Aiden Markham, who is still in the tournament, who is the leader of South Africa, the captain, leading from the front in that opening partnership, 268 runs. Hetmeyer, so sad we're not going to see him in the semifinals. 348 runs. He's provided the firepower and the smarts, and kind of like the smart batting for the Windies throughout their campaign, including giving India fits in that semifinal. I mean, again, India so fortunate to get through. Shouldn't be at this stage of the tournament, but they are, which is why they're India. They find ways. And then Yadav, Sky, who had 231 runs. Many of those, at least 80 of those against the United States in a match where India was on the ropes. The U.S. took the other 9 wickets. The U.S. had India 77 for 6 after 13 overs. And Sky got them over the line in a match that they never should have gotten over the line in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit about the England-India match. This is a mouth-watering battle between 2 sides that are the 2 most recent champions of this competition. 2 of the elite nations. Blue bloods is the term we like to use in the U.S. So 2 of the blue bloods in cricket. 2 of the 3, really, along with Australia at this point, if you don't count the Windies and Pakistan anymore because of their recent struggles. But neither side has played particularly well in this tournament. I mean, I've made a whole video criticizing England's performance in the group stage. And they answered some of those questions in the first knockout stage, first Super 8 match, and then kind of regressed back to the mean after that. So I have a lot of concerns about England. I have a lot of concerns about India. India never should have gotten past the U.S. in the first match. I've already said that many times. But I think the injury to Ali Khan, where he couldn't bowl the final 2 overs, or two of the final 4 overs, 2 overs in the death overs, cost the U.S. that match, quite frankly. And then a running error by Milan Kumar. They were sloppy in the field against the Netherlands. I won't say they were fortunate to win that match, but 1 or 2 other things happens in that match, they lose that match. And then they never should have beaten the West Indies. Windies were, I think, far superior on Sunday. Far superior, not just the better team, far superior. They got smashed by South Africa, and quite frankly, they did not play that well against Zimbabwe. So, but they're here. They beat up on Pakistan, okay? That's their only real highlight of the tournament. They didn't even play that well against Namibia. So India has underperformed in How many matches have we had so far? 7. They've underperformed in 6 of the 7 matches. They were beaten badly by South Africa. They probably should have been beaten by the United States. They probably should have been beaten by the West Indies. But here they are. They won the matches they needed to, and they're here. England has been relentless in battling through matches, but again, very fortunate to beat Nepal, which in hindsight looks like an absolutely horrible performance. Very, and it was Will Jacks who saved them that day. Against Scotland, they were poor. They got smashed by the Windies. They were poor against Scotland. They were poor against Italy. Their opening partnership of Salt and Butler has been off the entire tournament, with the exception of that Sri Lanka match. Now we saw how bad Sri Lanka was in the Super 8s. We can kind of understand that better. For all of the experience of Jofra Archer and Rashid in terms of bowling, they have had some shockers. And then they've had some brilliant matches. So India's opening partnership, because Subhashek has been off, has been poor also. So you have two of the worst opening partnerships in the entire tournament facing off in the semifinal. One of those teams is going to be in the final. And then you have India has relied on a different hero every game. This speaks to their squad depth. Same thing with England. Like I said, some days it's been Will Jacks. Some days it's been. I mean, even my notes from the Pakistan match. Maybe it's my own selective biases, but I'm writing very. Other than Archer's great bowling, I'm writing very positive things about Pakistan and not about England. India, Zimbabwe, Bennett. Good. Talking about how disastrous Dubé was in his bowling. I mean, embarrassing. Arshdeep, all the wide balls he was bowling, all the extras that Zimbabwe got in that match. There was 4 extras in 1 over. So my notes about India and Pakistan, India and England from this tournament are all very, very negative. Although here I've got in one of the matches about how unflappable England was and how good Benton was. And Bethel has been a player. Those 2 guys, Benton and Bethel, have been unflappable. They've been calm. Harry Brook has been all over the place as a captain in this tournament. But they've both gotten through. They've gotten through because they have more talent than the other countries. And I'm looking at the notes that I took from the New Zealand match the other day, and Will Jacks and Rashid got timely wickets of Seaford and Finn Allen. And Archer, until his final over, bowled well. So they step up in moments. They step up in spots, I think, has been the key in this tournament. But this makes me wonder what we're going to have. Are we going to have Will Jacks and Harry Brook post massive totals against loose Indian bowling? I've just gone through some of their loose bowling, particularly from the Namibia match. Particularly from the Zimbabwe match. We saw some of it in the Namibia match. We certainly saw it in the Netherlands match. My goodness. Disastrous bowling and fielding. And then against the United States, their inability to hit the medium pacers and the spinners of the United States. They got Netravalkar for an extra over and went for 22 in that over, and that was the difference in the match. And they got Netravalkar for an extra over against the United States because Ali Khan was injured. But they get Ali Khan, whose pace is who has more variation in his pace. They're not getting 22 in that over, and I think you combine that with Millen's running error, it does make that running error between the stumps, then I think the U.S. probably wins. I think the U.S. probably wins that match. So do Brook and Jacks step up? Do they post massive totals because India's shaky bowling is there, although they will have the crowd support? Their spin arsenal has been off at times, and Bumrah has been fantastic as always in this tournament. But that's 4 overs, and what we've seen Sky do is try and save him for the death over. So he didn't even bowl in the power play against the Windies. You may not need him to bowl in the power play against England because England's opening partnership has been so bad. So let's talk about this. Just like the matchups, England's power versus India's power play woes, and England's got power play woes also. England is going to try and exploit the same weakness in India's top of the order that went in one match. It was, again, the U.S. match went 46 for 4. through like 8 overs. I mean, they were just getting smashed by the American medium pacers and spinners. The Eden Gardens track is going to offer turn. The wicket's going to play differently. Can Rashid Jacks and the new English bowler, gosh, what was his name? I was very impressed by him against New Zealand. The new England bowler who was getting his first international, Raheem Ahmed. Maybe he did really well. He did well batting too. Maybe he's in the team for this game. Can he get some variation in his attack? And then obviously you have Archer. Is that going to really spook India, particularly with India's batters so off? And then there is, of course, the pressure of the crowd, the hosts. England has found ways through matches in this tournament. So has India. Neither team has looked very good. I think on the surface, either team would get beat by South Africa if South Africa were to beat New Zealand fairly easily. But that's not how it works. We know that particularly with India at home and given England's experience in winning big tournaments, India's experience in winning big tournaments also, and South Africa's lack of experience in getting across the line in big tournaments, that either one of these will pose a major challenge for South Africa in the final, assuming it is South Africa, not counting out New Zealand, but let's face it, it's probably going to be South Africa in that final. So we will be back after the semifinals to wrap things up and to preview the final and talk a little bit about the tournament and begin turning the page on this tournament and talking about the sort of things we're going to do at from the Pavilion, this show specifically, and then the Beyond the Boundary newsletter after the tournament is over. Thank you. Thank you for all your patronage.